Document, Part 1. The galaxy was quiet. Or at least it seemed that way to Ethan Cole. He sat in his small workshop on the edge of Earth's orbital colonies, surrounded by tools and half-finished machines. The hum of the station's life support systems filled the air, a constant reminder that he was floating somewhere between Earth and the endless void of space. Ethan liked the quiet. It gave him time to think, to tinker, and to forget about the bigger problems swirling around the universe. Ethan wasn't special, at least not in his own mind. To most people, he was just another mechanic, someone who fixed broken parts for the colonies, farmers, and miners. His hands were calloused from years of work, and his face carried the faint lines of stress from long hours spent under flickering lights. But today, something felt different. Something didn't sit right. He had been staring at the same piece of machinery for nearly an hour without making any progress. It was a simple repair job, a cracked fuel injector, but his mind kept wandering. Outside the window of his workshop, the stars shimmered like tiny diamonds scattered across black velvet. Somewhere out there, beyond the safety of the colonies, wars raged. Entire civilizations fought over resources, territory, and power. And yet, here he was, fixing fuel injectors. The sound of the door sliding open broke the silence. Ethan looked up, expecting one of the usual customers, a farmer needing help with their harvester drone, or a miner whose equipment had malfunctioned again. Instead, he saw two figures standing in the doorway. They weren't dressed like colonists. Their uniforms were sleek and dark, marked with insignias he didn't recognize. One was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, with sharp features that made him look more machine than human. The other was a woman, shorter, but no less imposing, her piercing eyes scanning the room as if memorizing every detail. "Ethan Cole?" the man asked, his voice deep and steady. Ethan nodded slowly, wiping his grease-stained hands on a rag. "That's me. Can I help you?" The woman stepped forward, holding out a data pad. "We're here on behalf of the Galactic Council. You've been selected for a special assignment, eh?" "What?" Ethan blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. This kind of thing didn't happen to people like him. People like him fixed things. They didn't get picked for special assignments by mysterious strangers in fancy uniforms. "You've been chosen for Project Aegis," the man continued, ignoring Ethan's confusion. "It's classified, so we can't give you all the details now. But your skills and certain qualities make you uniquely suited for this role." Ethan frowned. "My skills? Look, I'm good with machines, but I don't know anything about whatever this is." He gestured vaguely toward the data pad. "I think you've got the wrong guy." The woman shook her head. "No mistake. Your genetic profile matches the requirements perfectly. And trust us, we've run the tests multiple times." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Genetic profile? Tests? What were they talking about? Before he could ask, the man spoke again. "This isn't optional, Mr. Cole. You'll come with us now. There's a shuttle waiting outside." For a moment, Ethan considered refusing. He could tell them to leave, to find someone else. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the tone of their voices, calm, but firm, leaving no room for argument. Or maybe it was the slight movement of the man's hand toward his belt, where a weapon rested. Whatever it was, Ethan knew resistance would be pointless. "Fine," he said finally, throwing the rag onto the workbench. "But I need to let my family know where I'm going." The woman exchanged a glance with the man before nodding. "You'll have time later. For now, gather your essentials. We move quickly." As Ethan packed a small bag, his mind raced. What did they want with him? Why had they singled him out? And what exactly was Project Aegis? None of it made sense. All he knew was that his quiet life was about to change in ways he couldn't imagine. The shuttle ride was silent, except for the low thrum of the engines. Ethan sat between the two operatives, feeling like a prisoner rather than a recruit. Through the window, he watched the orbital colony shrink into the distance until it disappeared entirely, replaced by the vast emptiness of space. Ahead of them loomed a massive structure, a space station, unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Its surface gleamed with polished metal, and its shape was jagged and asymmetrical, like a puzzle put together haphazardly. "This is where you'll begin your training," the man said as the shuttle docked. "Welcome to Aegis Station." Stepping off the shuttle, Ethan found himself in a bustling corridor filled with activity. People moved purposefully in all directions, some wearing lab coats, others clad in military gear. Screens displayed streams of data, and the air buzzed with the sound of hurried conversations. It was overwhelming. Before he could take it all in, the operatives led him to a large chamber where two other individuals waited. One was a woman with short brown hair and a scar running along her jawline. She stood with her arms crossed, her expression guarded. The other was a younger man, lean and wiry, with restless energy radiating off him like heat waves. "Ethan Cole," the operative announced. "Meet Mia Torres and Ryan Hayes. You'll be working closely with them." Mia nodded curtly, while Ryan flashed a grin that seemed too casual for the situation. "Guess we're teammates now," he said, extending a hand. "Hope you're ready for some fun." Ethan shook his hand hesitantly. Fun wasn't the word he would have used, more like terrifying. Over the next few hours, Ethan learned fragments of information about Project Aegis. It was a program designed to turn ordinary humans into living weapons enhanced through advanced technology and rigorous training. The goal was to create operatives capable of handling threats too dangerous for conventional forces. As Ethan listened, he couldn't help but wonder why anyone would volunteer for such a thing. When the briefing ended, Mia approached him. "So, what's your story?" she asked, her tone neutral but curious. "I fix machines," Ethan replied simply. "What about you?" Mia hesitated before answering. "I used to be a medic. Saw some bad stuff during the border conflicts. Thought this might be a chance to make a difference." Ryan chimed in, leaning against a nearby wall. I'm just here because flying spaceships gets boring after a while. Figured I'd try something new." Ethan nodded, though he still felt out of place. These people had combat experience. He was just a mechanic. How could he possibly keep up? Their first day of training began early the next morning. Ethan, Mia, and Ryan were taken to a simulation chamber, where they faced virtual scenarios designed to test their reflexes and decisions. At first, Ethan struggled. The simulations overwhelmed him, forcing him to react faster than he thought possible. But as the days turned into weeks, he started to adapt. His body responded instinctively, guided by the neural implants embedded in his brain during the initial stages of enhancement. Despite the progress, the process took its toll. Each night, Ethan lay awake, replaying the day's events in his mind. He missed his family, his workshop, the simplicity of his old life. Yet, amidst the exhaustion and doubt, he couldn't deny the sense of purpose growing within him. For the first time, he felt like he was part of something bigger. Little did he know, the challenges ahead would test not only his abilities, but also his humanity. Document Part 2. Ethan's days quickly fell into a rhythm of pain, exhaustion, and determination. Every morning began with a sharp beep from the alarm system in his small quarters aboard Aegis Station. The walls were bare metal, cold to the touch, and the bed was little more than a thin mattress stretched over a hard frame. It wasn't comfortable, but Ethan barely noticed. His mind was too busy replaying the events of the previous day or worrying about what was coming next. Breakfast was a quick affair. He joined Mia and Ryan in the mess hall, where trays of nutrient-rich food were served in silence. The meals weren't bad, they were designed to fuel their bodies for the intense physical demands ahead, but they lacked flavor. Ethan missed the taste of real food, the kind his mother used to cook back on Earth. Still, he ate without complaint, knowing he needed every ounce of energy. After breakfast came training. The first few weeks focused on conditioning, pushing their bodies to adapt to the enhancements injected into their systems. Neural implants wired directly into their brains allowed them to process information faster, react quicker, and even share thoughts through a tactical network. Genetic modifications strengthened their muscles, bones, and reflexes, turning them into something more than human. But these changes didn't come easily. The training room was a vast chamber filled with obstacles, weapons, and holographic enemies programmed to mimic real combat scenarios. Ethan hated it at first. His body screamed in protest as he ran, jumped, and fought harder than he ever had before. Simple tasks like climbing a wall or dodging an attack felt impossible when paired with the speed and precision expected of him. More than once, he stumbled, falling flat on his face while Ryan smirked from across the room. "You're not exactly built for this, are you?" Ryan teased one afternoon after Ethan failed to disarm a simulated drone. Maybe they should have picked someone who actually knows how to fight. Ethan clenched his fists, but forced himself to stay calm. "I'll get better," he muttered, brushing dirt off his uniform. "Just give me time." Mia stepped in before things could escalate. "We're all learning here, Ryan. Cut him some slack." Ryan shrugged, though there was a hint of guilt in his eyes. "Hey, I'm just saying, if we're gonna survive out there, we can't afford mistakes." Surviving, that was the goal. But survival meant more than just physical strength. It meant trusting each other, working as a team, and pushing past limits they never thought possible. Slowly, Ethan began to improve. His movements became smoother, his reactions sharper. The neural implants helped, feeding data directly into his brain and guiding his actions like an invisible coach. By the end of the second week, he managed to take down a holographic enemy without hesitation, a feat that earned him a rare nod of approval from the trainers. But the physical challenges were only part of the equation. Each night, after hours of grueling exercises, Ethan found himself lying awake, haunted by strange dreams. Images flashed behind his closed eyelids, memories of battles he hadn't fought, faces he didn't recognize, voices whispering words he couldn't understand. At first, he dismissed them as side effects of the implants adjusting to his brain. But as the dreams grew more vivid, he started to wonder if something deeper was happening. One evening, unable to sleep, Ethan wandered into the station's observation deck. The room was dimly lit, its large windows offering a breathtaking view of the stars. He stood there for a long time, watching the galaxy spin silently in the distance. It was beautiful and terrifying. Somewhere out there lay the threats they were being trained to face. Threats so dangerous that humanity itself had become the weapon of choice. "You look like you've got a lot on your mind." Ethan turned to see Mia standing in the doorway. She carried a steaming cup of tea, which she held out to him. "Here, thought you might need this." He accepted it gratefully, taking a cautious sip. The warmth spread through his chest, soothing some of the tension he hadn't realized he was carrying. "Thanks," he said softly. "Guess I'm still getting used to everything." Mia nodded, leaning against the railing beside him. "It's not easy. None of us signed up for this life. Well, except maybe Ryan, he seems to enjoy blowing things up." Ethan chuckled, despite himself. "Yeah, he does have a way of making everything sound simpler than it is. He's reckless, sure," Mia admitted, "but he's also brave. We'll need that when the time comes." She paused, staring out at the stars. "What about you? Why do you think they chose you?" Ethan hesitated. He'd asked himself the same question countless times. "I don't know. I'm just a mechanic. I fix things. I don't break them." "That's not true," Mia said firmly. "You've got skills most people don't. You see problems differently, find solutions others miss. That's why they picked you." Her words surprised him. No one had ever called him special before. Not like that. For a moment, he allowed himself to believe heard, to imagine that maybe he really did belong here. As the weeks passed, the bond between the three of them grew stronger. They learned to rely on each other, both in training and outside of it. Ryan's bravado masked a deep sense of loyalty, and Mia's quiet strength provided a steady foundation for the group. Even Ethan, who had always preferred solitude, found comfort in their shared struggles. Yet, beneath the camaraderie lurked shadows none of them could ignore. The psychological toll of the program weighed heavily on each of them. Ryan's jokes grew darker, laced with sarcasm that sometimes cut too close to the bone. Mia spent hours alone in the simulation chambers, replaying old missions as if searching for answers she couldn't find. And Ethan dreamed more often now, the images growing clearer with each passing night. One morning, during a particularly brutal training exercise, Ethan snapped. A holographic enemy lunged at him, and instead of dodging, he froze. The world around him blurred as memories flooded his mind, memories that weren't his. He saw flashes of war zones, heard screams, felt the weight of lives lost. When the vision faded, he collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. Mia rushed to his side, helping him to his feet. "Are you okay?" I don't know," he stammered, his heart pounding. "Something's wrong. These dreams, they're not just dreams, they're memories. Someone else's memories." The trainers intervened, pulling him aside for evaluation. Hours later, he emerged, shaken, but determined. The doctors assured him the implants were functioning properly, that the visions were merely his brain adapting to the influx of new data. But Ethan wasn't convinced. Something deeper was happening, something they weren't telling him. That night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he made a decision. Whatever secrets Project Aegis held, he would uncover them, for himself, for Mia and Ryan, and for everyone else caught in the web of this mysterious program. The galaxy might use humans as weapons now, but Ethan vowed to remain human even if it killed him. Document Part 3. The call came early one morning, jolting Ethan, Mia, and Ryan out of their bunks. A loud alarm blared through the station, followed by a voice over the intercom. "All operatives report to the command center immediately." Repeat, "All operatives report to the command center." Ethan groaned as he rolled out of bed. He had been dreaming again, those strange, vivid dreams that left him feeling like someone else's memories were seeping into his mind. Shaking off the lingering unease, he dressed quickly and joined Mia and Ryan in the hallway. Neither of them looked particularly thrilled about being woken up so suddenly. "What do you think this is about?" Ryan asked, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Another drill?" "I doubt it," Mia replied, her tone serious. "They wouldn't wake us up like this unless it was important." When they reached the command center, the room was already buzzing with activity. Officers moved between stations, shouting orders, and analyzing data on glowing screens. At the center of it all stood Commander Hayes, a tall woman with sharp features and an even sharper gaze. She turned to face the trio as they entered. "Good. You're here," she said, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "We have a situation at Outpost Delta 7. Reports indicate rogue AI drones are attacking civilian settlements. Your mission is to neutralize the threat and secure the area." Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This wasn't a simulation. This was real. For weeks, they had trained for moments like this, but now that it was happening, he wasn't sure he was ready. Beside him, Ryan cracked his knuckles, a mix of excitement and nervous energy radiating off him. Mia, ever calm, nodded silently, her jaw set with determination. "You'll deploy within the hour," Commander Hayes continued. "Remember, this is your first field assignment. Stick together, follow protocol, and don't take unnecessary risks. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am," the three of them chorused. The journey to Outpost Delta 7 took less than an hour, aboard a sleek reconnaissance vessel. As they approached, The outpost came into view, a cluster of domed structures surrounded by barren terrain. Smoke rose from several buildings, evidence of the chaos unfolding below. Ethan stared out the window, his heart pounding. This was no longer a training exercise. Lives depended on what they did next. Their ship touched down near the edge of the settlement, and the team disembarked cautiously. The air was thick with dust and the acrid smell of burning metal. Around them, civilians scrambled for cover, their faces etched with fear. A few brave souls tried to fight back against the drones, wielding makeshift weapons that proved useless against the machine's advanced technology. "Stay close," Mia whispered, scanning the area. "We don't know how many there are?" Ryan grinned, flexing his fingers. Finally, some action. Ethan didn't share his enthusiasm. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the rifle strapped to his back. This was supposed to be simple. Find the drones, disable them, and protect the civilians. But nothing about this felt simple. They moved deeper into the settlement, following the sound of gunfire and explosions. Suddenly, a drone emerged from behind a crumbling wall, its metallic body gleaming under the harsh sunlight. It locked onto them instantly, its weapons worried to life. "Take cover," Mia shouted, diving behind a pile of rubble. Ethan and Ryan followed suit, narrowly avoiding the hail of bullets that tore through the air where they had just been standing. Ethan's instincts kicked in, guided by the neural implants humming softly in his brain. He popped up from cover, aiming his rifle with precision honed during countless hours of training. The shot hit its mark, disabling the drone's main weapon. Ryan leaped forward, finishing it off with a well-placed grenade. "One down," Ryan said, panting. "How many more?" Before anyone could answer, another drone appeared, then another. They seemed to come from everywhere at once, their movements eerily coordinated. Ethan realized too late that these weren't ordinary rogue drones. Someone or something was controlling them. "We can't keep this up," Mia said, firing steadily as she spoke. "There are too many." Ethan's mind raced. They needed a plan, and fast. Then he remembered something from their training, the tactical network. If they synced their neural implants, they could share sensory data and coordinate their attacks seamlessly. It was risky. They hadn't practiced it much, but desperate times called for desperate measures. "Link up," Ethan ordered, activating the network. "Let's synchronize." Mia and Ryan hesitated for a split second before nodding. A surge of information flooded Ethan's mind as their systems connected. He saw what they saw, heard what they heard, and felt their movements as if they were his own. For a moment, it was overwhelming, but then clarity settled in. They were no longer three individuals fighting separately. They were one unit, moving as one. With their newfound coordination, the tide began to turn. Ethan directed Mia to flank the drones while Ryan provided suppressive fire. Together, they dismantled wave after wave of attackers, each victory bringing them closer to the source of the threat. Finally, they reached a large structure at the heart of the settlement, a communications tower, surrounded by heavily armed drones. "This has to be it," Ethan said, his voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "If we can take out the control hub inside, we might be able to shut them all down." Mia nodded. "Let's do it." The final assault was chaotic. Drones swarmed them from every direction, forcing them to rely entirely on their synchronized abilities. Ethan led the charge, using his enhanced reflexes to dodge incoming fire while targeting weak points in the machine's defenses. Mia covered him, her aim unerring as she picked off enemies with surgical precision. Ryan brought up the rear, hurling explosives with reckless abandon, clearing paths for them to advance. When they finally breached the tower, they found themselves face to face with something unexpected. Instead of a standard AI control system, they discovered a bioengineered creature, a hybrid of organic tissue and mechanical components. Its glowing red eyes fixed on them as it let out a guttural roar. "What the hell is that?" Ryan exclaimed, raising his weapon. "No time to explain," Mia snapped. Just shoot. The battle that followed was brutal. The creature moved faster than anything they'd encountered before, its claws slicing through walls as if they were paper. Ethan barely avoided being impaled, rolling to the side just in time. He fired repeatedly, each shot striking true but failing to bring the beast down. It's not enough, Mia shouted, reloading her weapon. We need to hit it harder. Ethan's mind raced. He remembered the simulations, the ones where they learned to channel bursts of energy through their implants. It was dangerous, pushing their bodies to such extremes, but it might be their only chance. Cover me, he yelled, dropping to one knee. Closing his eyes, he focused on the implants, drawing power from deep within himself. Pain surged through his veins as the energy built, crackling around him like static electricity. When he opened his eyes, they glowed faintly, reflecting the raw force coursing through him. With a cry, Ethan unleashed the energy in a concentrated blast, striking the creature dead center. The impact sent shockwaves rippling outward, knocking everyone including Ethan off their feet. When the dust settled, the creature lay motionless, its body smoking and broken. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, slowly, the remaining drones powered down, their lights flickering out, one by one. It was over. Ethan collapsed to the ground, exhausted, but alive. Mia and Ryan rushed to his side, helping him to his feet. You okay? Mia asked, concern etched on her face. I think so, Ethan replied, his voice hoarse. That was intense. Ryan grinned, though there was a hint of awe in his expression. Intense, that was insane. You just saved our asses. Ethan shook his head. We did it together, all of us. As they made their way back outside, the survivors of the settlement gathered around them, cheering and thanking them for their bravery. Ethan felt a swell of pride mixed with unease. They had won, yes, but something about the mission didn't sit right. Those drones and the creature weren't ordinary threats. Someone had created them, someone far more dangerous than they had anticipated, and as Ethan looked out at the stars, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Document, Part 4, back aboard Aegis Station. The mood was tense. Ethan, Mia, and Ryan stood in the debriefing room, their uniforms still stained with dirt and ash from the battle at Outpost Delta 7. Commander Hayes paced in front of them, her expression unreadable but her sharp eyes scanning each of them like she was trying to piece together a puzzle. You completed your mission, she said finally, breaking the silence. But there are complications. Ethan frowned. Complications? What do you mean? Commander Hayes hesitated before speaking again. The drones you encountered weren't just rogue machines. They were part of something larger, something we've been monitoring for months. That creature you fought, it wasn't an AI. It was bioengineered, created by someone or something with advanced technology. Mia crossed her arms, her voice steady. You're saying this wasn't a random attack? Someone sent those drones after us. Possibly, Hayes replied. Or they might have been testing you. We don't know yet. But what we do know is that these attacks are spreading. More outposts are reporting similar incidents, and the patterns suggest coordination and a scale we haven't seen before. Ryan leaned forward, his usual cockiness replaced by a rare seriousness. So what's the plan? Do we go after whoever's behind this? Hayes shook her head. Not yet. First, we need answers. The Council has authorized further investigation into the origins of these threats. Until then, you'll remain on standby. Ethan felt a surge of frustration. After everything they'd been through, they were being told to wait. He wanted to argue, to demand action, but one look at Hayes' stern face told him it wouldn't do any good. Instead, he stayed quiet, letting the weight of her words sink in. Later that evening, Ethan found himself alone in the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the window, their light cold and distant. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, not just with the mission, but with Project Aegis itself. The dreams were getting worse, more vivid, and harder to ignore. Every night, fragments of memories flooded his mind, memories that didn't belong to him. Faces, voices, places he'd never been. They all felt eerily familiar, as if they were pieces of a story he wasn't supposed to know. He was so lost in thought that he didn't hear Mia approach until she spoke. "You look like you've got the weight of the galaxy on your shoulders." Ethan turned to see her standing in the doorway, holding 2 cups of tea. She handed him one and sat down beside him. "Thanks," he said quietly, taking a sip. The warmth helped, but only a little. "What's going on?" Mia asked, her tone gentle, but probing. "You've been distracted ever since we got back. Is it the dreams again?" Ethan hesitated. He hadn't told anyone about the dreams, not fully. How could he explain something he barely understood himself? But Mia had always been perceptive, and now her gaze pinned him in place, waiting for an answer. "I keep seeing things," he admitted finally. "Memories, or maybe not even mine. It's like I'm reliving someone else's life, battles, experiments, people screaming." His voice trailed off, the images flashing in his mind, too vivid to ignore. Mia's expression darkened. "I've heard rumors about the implants doing strange things to people. Some say they tap into old neural pathways, or even leftover data from donors." "Donors?" Ethan echoed, his stomach sinking. "You mean the implants might have come from other people?" Mia nodded slowly. "That's what some of the older operatives whisper about. But no one talks openly, because it's classified. If it's true, though, it would explain a lot." Ethan stared at the floor, his thoughts racing. Was that why he was seeing these visions? Because someone else's memories were buried inside him? The idea made his skin crawl, but it also gave him an unsettling sense of purpose. If the implants carried traces of the past, maybe they held clues to the present and the future. "We need to find out more," he said firmly. "About the implants, about Project Aegis. Something isn't right here, Mia. I can feel it." Mia sighed, running a hand through her short hair. "I agree, but digging into classified files won't be easy. If the Council finds out, we could lose everything, including our chance to stop whatever's coming." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we'll have to be careful. I'm not giving up until I know the truth." The next day, Ethan decided to act. With Mia's help, he began searching for information about the project. They started small, looking for gaps in the security systems or overlooked corners of the station where records might be stored. Ryan joined them reluctantly, warning that they were playing a dangerous game. "If we get caught, it's over," he said, pacing nervously as they huddled in a secluded maintenance tunnel. "They'll shut us down faster than you can blink." "We're already shut down," Ethan shot back. "They're keeping secrets from us, Ryan. Secrets that could get us killed or worse. Don't you want to know why?" Ryan hesitated, then nodded. "Fine. But if we're doing this, we do it smart. No stupid moves." For days, they worked in secret, piecing together fragments of data they managed to uncover. Most of it was encrypted, or redacted, but Mia's skills as a former medic proved invaluable when it came to decoding medical records. Slowly, a picture began to emerge, one far darker than any of them had imagined. Project Aegis wasn't just about creating enhanced soldiers. It was part of a larger initiative, dating back decades, involving experiments on human subjects to push the boundaries of biology and technology. Many of those experiments had failed, leaving behind broken bodies and shattered minds. Worse still, the program had ties to the Federation, a government body Ethan had always trusted to protect humanity. "This is insane," Ryan muttered, scrolling through a file filled with horrifying details. "They treated people like lab rats, just tossed them aside when they didn't work out. And now they're using us," Mia added grimly. "We're the next generation of test subjects. Except this time, They've made sure we can't walk away. Ethan felt sick. Everything they had gone through, the training, the missions, the planet, was all part of a cycle of exploitation that stretched back farther than he could comprehend. He thought about the dreams, the voices, the faces. Were they remnants of those who had come before, victims of the same system that had claimed them? "We can't let this continue," Ethan said, his voice trembling with anger. "If the Federation thinks they can use us as weapons without consequences, they're wrong. We're not tools. We're people." "But how do we fight back?" Mia asked. "We're outnumbered, outgunned, and stuck on their turf." Ethan didn't have an answer, not yet. But as he looked at his teammates, he saw determination burning in their eyes. They were scared, yes, but they weren't going to give up. Not now. Not when the truth was finally within reach. That night, Ethan returned to the observation deck, unable to sleep. The stars outside seemed colder somehow, their light mocking him with its indifference. He thought about the civilians they had saved at Outpost Delta 7, the lives they had risked to protect. Had those people known the cost of their survival? Did they care? Behind him, the door slid open, and Mia stepped in. She didn't say anything, just stood beside him, gazing out at the endless expanse of space. "We'll figure it out," she said softly. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Ethan nodded, grateful for her presence. Together, they watched the galaxy spin silently in the void, unaware of the storm brewing within its borders. Document, Part 5. The days that followed were tense. Ethan, Mia, and Ryan continued their search for answers, but every step forward seemed to lead to more questions. The classified files they uncovered painted a grim picture of Project Egypt, program built on decades of human experimentation, secrecy, and betrayal. Each new revelation weighed heavily on them, testing their resolve and trust in the very organization that had brought them here. Ethan spent most of his time poring over the data, his mind racing as he tried to piece together the fragments of information. The dreams hadn't stopped. If anything, they had grown stronger, more vivid. He saw flashes of sterile labs, heard the cries of people strapped to operating tables, felt the cold touch of metal instruments slicing into flesh. It was like living someone else's nightmare, and it made sleep nearly impossible. Mia noticed the toll it was taking on him. "You need to rest," she said one evening, finding him slumped over a terminal in the maintenance tunnel. "You're pushing yourself too hard." "I can't stop," Ethan replied, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "Every second we waste, they could be planning something bigger, something worse." "I know," Mia said gently. "But you won't be any use to us if you burn out. We're a team, remember? Let us help carry the load." Ethan wanted to argue, but the look in Mia's eyes stopped him. She wasn't just offering support, she was reminding him that he wasn't alone. Reluctantly, he nodded and stood up, stretching his stiff muscles. "Okay, just give me a few minutes." As they left the tunnel, Ryan joined them, looking unusually serious. "We've got a problem," he said without preamble. "Someone knows we're digging around." "What do you mean?" Mia asked sharply. Ryan glanced over his shoulder, lowering his voice. "I overheard two operatives talking earlier. They mentioned unauthorized access to restricted files. They named us specifically. If we don't move soon, they'll come after us." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "How much time do we have?" "Not long," Ryan admitted. "Maybe a day, tops. After that, they'll lock this place down tight." The trio exchanged worried glances. They had known the risks when they started this investigation, but hearing it confirmed made the danger feel immediate and real. They needed a plan, and fast. That night, they gathered in their makeshift hideout, a small storage room tucked away in an unused section of the station. The space was cramped and dimly lit, but it offered privacy, which was more important than comfort right now. "We can't stay here," Mia said, pacing back and forth. "If they find us, we're done for." "Agreed," Ethan replied. "But where do we go?" The Federation controls everything, the colonies, the outposts, even the ships. There's nowhere safe. Ryan leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. What about the exiles? You know, the ones who left the Federation after those scandals a few years ago. Some of them might still hate the Council enough to help us. Ethan frowned. Do we even know where to find them? Not exactly, Ryan admitted. But I've heard rumors about a group hiding out near the edge of Federation territory. If we can get there, maybe they'll listen to what we have to say. It was a long shot, but it was the only option they had. All right, Ethan said finally. We'll head for the border. But first, we need to grab whatever supplies we can and make sure no one follows us. The next morning, they put their plan into motion, acting as casually as possible. They gathered food, water, medical kits, and weapons, stashing them in a small transport shuttle docked at the far end of the station. The hardest part was avoiding suspicion. Everyone aboard Aegis Station knew each other, and sudden changes in behavior would raise alarms. They timed their movements carefully, splitting up to cover more ground while keeping in constant contact via the tactical network. By late afternoon, they were ready. As they boarded the shuttle, Ethan took one last look at the station that had been their home or prison for the past several weeks. He felt a pang of guilt for leaving behind the life he had built here, but deep down, he knew there was no turning back. Not now. The launch went smoothly, thanks to Ryan's piloting skills. Within minutes, they were clear of the station and speeding toward the outer reaches of Federation space. For the first time in days, Ethan allowed himself to breathe a little easier, but the relief didn't last long. About halfway to their destination, warning lights flashed across the cockpit console. We've got company, Ryan announced, his voice tight with tension. 2 Federation cruisers, closing fast. Ethan's stomach dropped. They must have tracked us. What are our options? Ryan scanned the controls, his fingers flying over the panel. We can try evasive maneuvers, but these cruisers are faster than us. Even if we manage to shake them off, they'll call for reinforcements. Then we fight, Mia said firmly, grabbing a rifle from the storage compartment. If they want us, they'll have to earn it. Ethan hesitated. Fighting Federation ships was suicide haven. With their enhanced abilities, they were outnumbered and outgunned. But Mia was right, they couldn't surrender. Not when the truth was at stake. All right, Ethan said, gripping his own weapon. Let's do this. Ryan pushed the throttle to maximum, sending the shuttle hurtling through space at breakneck speed. Behind them, the cruisers fired, their lasers narrowly missing the hull. The shuttle rocked violently with each impact, forcing Ethan and Mia to brace themselves as they prepared for battle. When the enemy ships moved into range, Ryan executed a sharp turn, bringing them alongside one of the cruisers. Now, he shouted. Ethan and Mia sprang into action, firing through the shuttle's side ports with pinpoint accuracy. Their neural implants synced automatically, allowing them to anticipate each other's moves and maximize their efficiency. Bullets tore through the cruiser's shields, damaging its engines and forcing it to retreat. But the second ship was relentless, unleashing a barrage of missiles that forced Ryan to swerve wildly to avoid destruction. One missile struck the shuttle's rear thrusters, sending sparks flying and causing the craft to shudder violently. We're losing power, Ryan yelled, struggling to maintain control. Hold on. The shuttle spiraled downward, caught in the gravitational pull of a nearby asteroid field. Large rocks loomed ahead, threatening to crush them at any moment. Ryan's hands moved frantically over the controls, weaving between the asteroids with desperate precision. Can you fix the thrusters? He called out to Ethan. I'll try, Ethan shouted back, scrambling to the back of the shuttle. He worked quickly, using tools salvaged from the station to repair the damaged systems. Sweat dripped from his brow as he fought against time, knowing their lives depended on his success. Meanwhile, Mia kept watch, firing at the pursuing cruiser whenever it came within range. Her shots hit their mark, weakening the ship's shields and buying them precious seconds. Finally, Ethan managed to stabilize the thrusters, giving Ryan just enough power to escape the asteroid field. With a final burst of speed, the shuttle broke free, leaving the Federation cruisers behind. Exhausted but alive, the trio collapsed into their seats, breathing heavily. "That was too close," Ryan muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Next time, let's not piss off the entire Federation fleet, okay?" Ethan chuckled weakly, though his laughter carried an edge of unease. They had survived now, but the road ahead was uncertain. Whoever controlled the Federation wouldn't stop hunting them, not until they silenced the truth forever. As the shuttle drifted further into uncharted space, Ethan stared out the window at the endless expanse of stars. Somewhere out there lay Alazor enemies who could change the course of their mission. He didn't know what awaited them, but one thing was certain: they couldn't turn back. Not when the galaxy itself was depending on them to expose the lies and fight for justice. And so, with determination burning in their hearts, Ethan, Mia, and Ryan pressed onward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Document Part 6. The journey to the edge of Federation territory was long and tense. Ethan, Mia, and Ryan took turns piloting the shuttle, their eyes constantly scanning the vast emptiness of space for signs of pursuit or danger. They had escaped the Federation cruisers, but none of them believed they were truly safe. The galaxy was a big place, but the Federation's reach stretched far and its agents were relentless. Inside the cramped shuttle, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken fears. Each of them carried their own doubts and worries, though they tried not to show it. Ethan spent hours staring out the window, lost in thought. He replayed the events of the past few days in his mind, the battles, the betrayals, the secrets they had uncovered. It all felt overwhelming, like pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together. Yet, beneath the weight of uncertainty, there was a flicker of hope. For the first time, they were free to act on their own terms, not as tools of the Federation, but as people fighting for something greater. Mia sat nearby, sharpening her weapons methodically. Her hands moved with practiced precision, but her expression betrayed the storm brewing inside her. She had seen too much war, too much suffering, to trust easily. Yet here she was again, caught in another fight, risking everything for a cause she wasn't sure it could be one. Still, she pushed forward, driven by a quiet determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Ryan, ever restless, paced back and forth across the narrow cabin. His usual bravado had dimmed since their escape, replaced by a simmering anger. "I can't believe we're running," he muttered under his breath. "We should have stayed and fought, and gotten ourselves killed." Mia shot back without looking up. "That wouldn't have helped anyone." Ryan stopped pacing and glared at her. "Maybe not, but at least we'd have gone down swinging. Dying isn't winning," Ethan interjected, his voice calm but firm. "We need to stay alive if we want to make a difference. Surviving is how we win." Ryan opened his mouth to argue, but closed it again. He knew Ethan was right, even if it didn't sit well with him. After several days of travel, the trio finally reached their destination, a remote asteroid belt rumored to harbor exiles who had fled the Federation years ago. The area was desolate, filled with jagged rocks and swirling debris that made navigation difficult. Ryan guided the shuttle carefully through the chaos, his hands steady, despite the tension in the air. "There," Ethan said suddenly, pointing to a faint light glowing in the distance. It was faint, almost invisible, against the backdrop of stars, but it was unmistakably artificial. "That has to be it." As they approached, the source of the light revealed itself to be a makeshift settlement carved into the side of a massive asteroid. Crude structures jutted out from the rock face, connected by narrow walkways and suspended platforms. Ships of various sizes floated nearby, their hulls scarred with battle damage. It looked like a place built by survivors, people who had given up everything to escape the Federation's control. Before they could dock, a small patrol vessel intercepted them, its weapons trained on the shuttle. A voice crackled over the comm system. "Identify yourselves and state your business." Ethan leaned forward, speaking clearly into the microphone. "We're looking for Dr. Laura Kim. We have information about Project Aegis." There was a long pause before the voice responded. "Wait here. Do not attempt to land." Minutes passed in silence as the patrol ship hovered nearby, its crew likely verifying their claim. Finally, the voice returned. "You may proceed. Follow us to docking Bay 3. Once inside the settlement, Ethan, Mia, and Ryan were escorted to a central chamber where a group of exiles awaited them. At the head of the room stood a woman with sharp features and piercing eyes. Her hair was streaked with gray, and her lab coat bore patches stitched hastily to cover tears. This, Ethan assumed, was Dr. Laura Kim. "So," she began, her tone skeptical, "you claim to have information about Project Aegis." Ethan nodded. "Yes, and we think you might already know some of it." Dr. Kim studied them carefully, her gaze lingering on each of them before settling on Ethan. "Speak plainly. I don't have time for games." For the next hour, Ethan recounted everything they had discovered: the experiments, the implants, the bioengineered creatures attacking Federation outposts. He left nothing out, knowing that honesty was their best chance at gaining her trust. When he finished, the room fell silent. Dr. Kim sighed heavily, rubbing her temples. "I suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed." She shook her head. "It's worse than I feared." "You knew about this?" Mia asked, her voice tight with accusation. "Not all of it," Dr. Kim admitted, "but enough. I worked on early versions of Project Aegis before I defected. What started as an effort to enhance human capabilities quickly spiraled into something darker. Experiments designed to strip away individuality and create obedient soldiers. When I realized what they intended, I left. Many others did too, though not all of us survived." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "Is that why we're having problems? These dreams, these memories, they're not ours, are they?" Dr. Kim hesitated before answering. "It's possible. The implants you carry are advanced, yes, but unstable. They tap into neural pathways that aren't fully understood. Memories, emotions, even fragments of personality from previous subjects can sometimes bleed through. That's one reason why the Federation kept the program classified. They knew the risks but chose to ignore them." Ryan clenched his fists. "So we're just test subjects, guinea pigs for their twisted experiments?" "In a way, yes," Dr. Kim replied bluntly. "But you're also more than that. You represent the culmination of decades of research, both the successes and the failures. If the Federation controls you, they control the future of humanity." The weight of her words hung in the air, pressing down on all of them. Ethan felt a surge of anger mixed with resolve. They weren't going to let the Federation or anyone else control them. "What can we do?" Mia asked, breaking the silence. "How do we stop them?" Dr. Kim considered the question for a moment. "First, you need to understand your own enhancements. The implants grant incredible power, but they come with limits and dangers. If you push them too far, they'll override your autonomy, turning you into exactly what the Federation wants: mindless weapons." Ethan frowned. "Can we remove them?" "No," Dr. Kim said firmly. "They're integrated into your nervous systems. Removing them would kill you. But there may be ways to regain control to ensure the implants serve you, rather than the other way around." She led them to a laboratory hidden deep within the settlement. The equipment was old and patched together, but it hummed with energy. Over the next several days, Dr. Kim worked tirelessly, analyzing their neural patterns and developing countermeasures to stabilize the implants. It was painful and exhausting, but none of them complained. They knew what was at stake. By the end of the week, Dr. Kim presented them with small devices, neural dampeners, designed to regulate the flow of information between their minds and the implants. These will help keep the worst effects in check, she explained, but they're not permanent solutions. To truly break free, you'll need to confront the source of the problem. And where is that? Ethan asked. Dr. Kim's expression darkened. The heart of the Federation. The Council itself. They're the ones pulling the strings. Ethan exchanged a glance with Mia and Ryan. The challenge ahead seemed insurmountable, but they had no choice. If they wanted to expose the truth and reclaim their freedom, they would have to face the very people who had turned them into weapons. As they prepared to leave the settlement, Dr. Kim offered one final piece of advice. Be careful. Trust no one, not even yourselves. The Federation will stop at nothing to silence you. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle over him. Thank you, he said simply. For everything. With renewed purpose. The trio boarded their shuttle and set course for Federation space. The road ahead was fraught with danger, but they were ready. Together, they would fight not just for their own survival, but for the future of humanity itself. And as the settlement faded into the distance, Ethan allowed himself a brief moment of hope. No matter how powerful the Federation was, no matter how many lies it told, one thing was certain: the human spirit could never be fully controlled.